I feel like this might be a touchy topic, but if you are a landlord and you rent your properties out on Section 8, go ahead and tap in. Now, I rent one of my properties out and I get plenty of questions, and people are apprehensive about doing the same because of a few things. So I wrote about 3 things on the top of the list when people are looking at potentially renting their homes out. Okay, the first one is strict annual inspection, potential rent delays. And there's one more that's most important. People have issues with renting out to people who have bad credit. Let me go ahead and talk about this a little bit. Now, as far as the burden with annual inspections, that's just gonna be what happens. I've seen it all. And realistically, all the housing department wants you to do is make sure that the house is habitable. You have to have your smoke alarms working. There can't be any type of safety issues. I've never failed an inspection. I don't expect people to fail inspections unless they're seriously an issue. The inspector usually will give you time to clear it up, and then you can move forward from there. Now, if you're the type of person that takes their time with getting things taken care of, like for instance, this last inspection, for some reason, I needed to have a dual carbon monoxide monitor and a fire alarm. And I was just like, okay, I've never had to do this. I've been doing this since 2019 and never had a problem. This is something new. I got it taken care of by the end of the day. That was something very small. But that's a big thing. They want to make sure those things are functional, so they will check those. And they will give you the chance to go ahead and fix. The second one was, or I think the last one I talked about, was credit. Now, everybody is going to have bad credit. This is just from personal experience. I've never had an application that I went through where I saw that they had decent credit, at least. Usually people have bad credit. And so what I'm looking for are evictions. I will validate that the person is employed. They need to make 3 times the rent on top of that, or their portion of the rent. So if the rent is $1,200 and their portion is $600, then they need to make $1,800. That's that. Make sure that they can cover those bills. So make sure you don't see any rental collections, because that's another thing. They might not have gotten evicted, but they could have potentially left the other place in shambles. Make sure you verify their rental history, and usually the landlord, their past landlord, will have you fill out a document to send to the tenant that they fill out as well, and then the landlord will complete it and then send it back to you. So I want to know, have they ever been late? Was there damage in the property? A couple other questions, and then another one, would they rent out their property again? So that's another thing. So we covered off annual inspections, credit, let me see, payment delays. Now, I've never had an issue with the payment delay. I'm in an interesting situation right now. So I have a tenant who started the process sooner than later. So her lease ends in July, and she's starting everything now. With that being said, I'm on a month-to-month where she has to send in a monthly document so I can actually get paid. I've never had to do that, but if it helps her out in finding her next home, then that's perfectly fine, because I'm about to sell this property so I can go move abroad. I think I tapped on all 3. So we went over the inspections, the credit, and the rent delays. So I've never had an issue. If you are a landlord that's a little bit apprehensive about renting your property out through HUD, go ahead and tap in, DM me, whatever. It's a simple process. It is time consuming, but it is simple. As long as you have all your ducks in a row, you should be good to go.